Fluffy. You're so fluffy. Ooh, fluff, 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 fluff. Ooh, fluff.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die. He's so fluffy.
So here's a little story for you. So I don't know if you remember, but a while back there was this bug going around. The what was it called? It began with C. The C word virus was going around, and I caught it. So I spent 2 weeks locked in a room on my own, and I was too exhausted and sick to read books, so I binge watched Disney Plus. And the show that really stood out to me of all the stuff that I binged was The Mandalorian, because I hadn't seen it. It really made up for a lot of the failings of the Star Wars franchise in recent years. Yeah, if we pretend the recent trilogy doesn't exist, it might actually cease to exist. One never knows. But the series was interesting because it was there for Star Wars fans with the whole, oh, let's learn more about the Mandalorians and let's learn more about other Star Wars races that we haven't had a chance to explore yet. And it did really serve the fans. Like, the technology was the same. The creatures were not CGI whatevers, but actual puppets or all real costumes, and it really did do a lot of fan service. Like, I just remember sitting there being like, oh, this is why I fell in love with Star Wars in the first place, because that's what George Lucas was known for, creating all these wonderful aliens and these wonderful creatures and all these little puppets that did their whole, their little lives in the background. And that's one thing that I really noticed about this show, is you have all of these little creatures, just all of these random shots, interspersed throughout every episode of what's going on in the villages. Like, oh, they're cooking some animals and you've got these little creatures just, jumping around and scurrying around in the background. That was what made, to me, one of the reasons at least that made Star Wars so special, is all these little details that could have easily been taken out, but that just served to make the Star Wars universe so much more rich and realistic. And season 1 really did that. It was also interesting to have a whole sequence straight after the Empire has fallen. So what is going on with the fractured remnants of the Empire? What's going on with the New Republic? How are they organizing themselves? And a lot of it makes sense. The New Republic are struggling to establish control over the galaxy. They're a new republic, literally. They're in their teething period. They don't really know what they're doing yet and how to go about it. And from an organization, a political point of view, that was super interesting. And again, the old empire struggling to keep control and to keep relevance when it's essentially just falling apart. And all of this being the background for a bounty hunter who, everybody likes a mysterious, very efficient, super kick-ass bounty hunter who has a golden heart, and obviously Baby Yoda / Grogu, the ultimate R factor. Aww. And their adventures within the Star Wars universe. So yeah, to me, season 1 was super pleasing. Season 2, kind of, I guess. So Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, was introduced to us as this super efficient, very competent character, and that kind of starts to fall apart in season 2 for some reason. He was super kick-ass, really good fighter, he was understanding, he was really smart, he was just a wonderful, wonderful, squishy character, and now he is falling into the realms of stupidity and incompetence, because incompetent writing, which is so often the case with these shows that we've been getting recently, especially with the whole Lucasfilms, everything revolving around Star Wars, it has very much been quantity over quality recently, and as I said, I can't be asked to care anymore. So it was kind of disappointing to see the Mandalorian start to go down that road, and there were definitely episodes that I kind of had questions about, especially the one with the spiders. I kind of had mixed feelings about it because a lot of the series kind of plays into the nostalgia element, like the nostalgia about Star Wars, but also the nostalgia about the shows that original Star Wars fans would have liked. And there were all these like sci-fi shows going on with these episodes that were basically just filler episodes where nothing much happened, but let's just give it an adventure, let's just find some monster, some sort of adversity, and make an episode out of it. And that's kind of what this felt like. So part of me was like, oh, I remember sitting through this when I was a kid, and like it wasn't necessarily a good part of the show, but it was a part of these shows, and something definitely that did kind of trigger something in the nostalgia sphere of my brain. But also, as I said, it wasn't necessarily a good thing because these were filler episodes and they weren't there to bring any substance. They were just there to fill up space and time. So I'm not quite sure whether this was done deliberately, like what the point of this was. I don't know, but hey, David Sedaris' sister, just, yeah, like I've read about her in a bunch of his books. Now I actually get to see. I'd never seen her or anything. Like I knew she was an actress, but I'd never even, like, I feel ashamed, like having to wait until she appeared in Star Wars to see her. Sorry, Amy, you deserve so much better. But yeah, anyway. And then there's him just falling into a trap that he absolutely wouldn't have fallen into in season 1. Like, what happened? What went wrong? Did he just, like, lose brain cells along the way? Is it like a video game where was he just tired and his mental faculties were somewhat reduced? Like, what? To be saved by someone. Because apparently that's the best way of introducing characters now.
But we need him to be dumb and stupid because this is how we introduce Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan's entire purpose in this series seems to be to just save Din Djarin's life. Like, whenever he's in a sticky situation, which he then ends up getting in a lot because the second that she's supposed to appear in the series, his brain cells just apparently melt away and she has to spend her whole time saving his life.
So I've just come back from watching the 5th episode of season 3, and so far it has been a massive void of content. Like, we have had 4 episodes of nothingness, and now vaguely some kind of plot and theme to the series has suddenly emerged after 5 episodes. The word disappointing doesn't cover it anymore. Like, we need a new word for this type of stuff. I don't even know if I still have the energy to be disappointed because so much of these shows that keep coming out, I just don't care anymore. 4 episodes in, she's already saved Din Djarin's life twice. So, like, he was already losing incompetence and mental faculties in season 2. Now, like, seriously, getting caught in that trap at the beginning and just being like to Grogu, oh, I'll go get Bo-Katan so she can save me. Like, really? You're not even gonna try and do something cool to get yourself out of this situation? It's just, no, I'm gonna lie down because I need a woman to think in my stead. Like, seriously? Yeah, so that happened. And then there's the scene in the living waters of Mandalore where he just disappears underwater. Why? What happens? Why does he disappear underwater? Why? We don't even know, like, it just does. Just... Okay. And then Bo-Katan has to go right to the very, very bottom of the lake or whatever it is to go and find him. Daddy, why did you let them do this to you? Is it like whenever there's a woman around or vaguely near him, he just loses all kind of competence? Because it doesn't happen in season 1 when he's with Cara Dune. And where is Cara Dune, by the way? Like, what happened to her? I liked her. I way prefer her than Bo-Katan. I really do.
Cara Dune and Din Djarin's characters just worked way better together. There was a lot more chemistry between them than there is between him and Bo-Katan. I am just not getting anything from Bo-Katan. She is a void. She is nothingness. Whereas Cara Dune was fun. She was competent. She wasn't bland and boring. She had a history that was actually interesting and that we could relate to. And her character is relatable. Bo-Katan is a royal, upper-class snob who doesn't really come across as someone who's ever been through anything really hard, whereas Bo-Katan she's got baggage, she's got trauma, and I really, really hope that we're going to get to see her before the end of the series. Please. I miss her.
So in season 1, there was that scene with the pirates, and so I kind of thought, okay, what we're going to get here in this season is going to be something about Din Djarin now being in charge of the Darksaber after defeating Gus Fring, and again politics within the New Republic and the fall of the Empire. And then there's the whole sequence with the pirates where the algae version of Davy Jones is very much like, I will get my revenge on you, and then he does in episode 5, but it's pathetic. Like, seriously, how do you call yourself the Pirate King if this is what you do? You just swish onto a planet with one ship and be like, yeah, I'm your leader now. Like, I mean, even if this planet is no longer protected by the Empire or the New Republic and it's independent, like, do you seriously not think that they won't have a way of defending themselves? Like, they have allies, they have friends. Why would you think that that was a good idea, to just, like, shoot a couple of lasers at people and then be like, yeah, we'll just rule the place with a bunch of drunken pirates? Like, obviously, like, what could possibly go wrong? Is this Pirate King related to the Oxapolit clan? I don't know. And then there's the whole thing with the Mandalorians going to save them, and this speech being like, well, oh, we need to ask ourselves why we need to lay down our lives for these people who basically spent most of their time hating us and that we fought against in the past. But yeah, let's do it because Bo-Katan saved my son, so I'm gonna go and fight so that potentially my son won't have a dad anymore, because that makes sense apparently. So there's a 3-minute battle with no real, like, stakes on anything. Really, could nothing more have been done with this planet being taken over by pirates than, yeah, we're just gonna swish in and fire some lasers and then save the day. Yay, in 2 minutes, because this is a show for 3-year-olds, apparently. God forbid there be any kind of complicated plot that involves, you know, getting people's emotions involved, getting viewers to actually be rooting for somebody. I mean, it was obvious the Mandalorians were going to win, and it was obvious that nobody was going to die, or nobody of any consequence was going to die, and it even went, like, more ridiculously than I thought it would, with the pirates kamikazing into the city. It's like, well, if I go down, you'll go down with me. And then we get the bit about Moff Gideon escaping and not being brought to trial, and the potential traitors within the ex-Empire New Republic people who have numbers instead of names. Like, what's that about? Or yeah, that was the whole episode about these people and the guy who experimented on baby Grogu and this woman. That was episode 4, like, in its entirety. And I watched it last week and I had already completely forgotten that it existed. That is how much I cared about what I'd seen in that episode. I just completely forgot. I just watched the recap and it was like, last week's episode, I'd already completely forgotten about it. I was like, oh yeah, there was that, wasn't there? Oh yeah, what happened to the... Oh yeah. It's like, I like something I watched 10 years ago. It really makes me sad. There have been so many, like, critics and people online saying, we don't want this type of content. We want competent writers who can write good stories with good characters that get the viewers involved, and that, you know, gone are the days where we actually used to be super involved in a series that was really good. I also find it hard to understand how the show Better Call Saul exists in the same world as the Rings of Power. Like, I was so involved with Better Call Saul. It's one of the best shows, if not the best TV series I have seen ever. And if you haven't seen it, you are seriously missing out. It's so well written, it's so well shot. The whole thing just breathes competence. It breathes the people who made this, who wrote this, who created these characters, who created this world, absolutely know 100% what they're doing. And it really shows. And it made this great show, and I cried when it was over. But guess what? We're starting straight after that, The Rings of Power. And me, like everyone else, I'd already seen the trailers, and there were already people complaining about it and saying this looks like it's gonna go very, very badly. Because guess what? We've got experience of this kind of thing. We know the signs. But I didn't want to judge until I'd actually seen it. I got halfway through episode 1. Halfway through. I didn't even watch the whole of episode 1. Because I wanted to gouge my own eyes out. Like, I don't know how any of this works. Like, Pseudo Galadriel being what I'm just gonna call her blonde lady, because that is not Galadriel. I don't know what world that is Galadriel, but it's not. So she's now this horrible, evil, cruel, self-centered bitch. And apparently that's just what her character's like for the whole series. And that's a good thing, according to the writers. Like, what? And the thing that really got me about The Rings of Power, or at least what little I have seen of it, like, the people who made this and wrote this did not care about anything. They didn't care about Tolkien's work. They didn't care about the characters. They didn't care about the story they were telling. They didn't care about anything. The camera work, the lighting, the fucking music, like, the editing, like, all of it. And like, we're talking about 2 writers who don't even know the very basics of storytelling. And that is so concerning. Like, how did these people have $1 billion thrown at them to make this show, and they don't understand, they haven't even read page 1 of how to write a story. And these are the people who are writing these multi-million-dollar shows now. These are the people who are writing for Amazon Prime, for Marvel, for... Because I didn't mention She-Hulk, but holy fuck.
Okay, so I found out literally right after I finished filming this video that Marvel president Victoria Alonso, who was responsible for a lot of the woke pseudo-feminists, activist bullshit that was filling more and more space in the MCU, was fired. And I didn't know that, but does anyone want to crack the champagne with me? Because I mean, I was quite happy about this, but I kind of suspect that it might be a case of better the devil you know. Ugh. Anyway.
I have so much to say. Like, She-Hulk tried to be a pro-feminist, like, women, girl power, you know, female positivity thing. It actually does the opposite. It actually, like, She-Hulk has gone so far into the extremism of the feminist message that it's actually come out the other end and become the very thing that it's fighting against. Like, it is actually perpetuating stereotypes and messages that are harmful to women. But sure, yeah, you're feminist and you're doing the world a favour, of course you are. So to all the studio people, be they Lucasfilm or Marvel or Amazon Prime or anyone, Netflix, or any of the new ones that are coming in, like, everybody's put this message out there so many times, but hire competent writers. And they do have them. Like, somewhere in Disney Studios, there is the people that wrote Encanto, which is brilliant. Hire competent writers, hire competent film crews, and as I said, Better Call Saul exists, and I'm so pissed off it's over. So there are good writers out there, there are good storytellers that you could have access to. And despite this, there's people on YouTube creating animations, creating stories that are way superior and way more meaningful than the sludge we keep being served. Why don't you get in touch with those people? I don't know what the policies are now for hiring writers, but it's concerning. So I'm going to end this here because, again, I've been filming for over 30 minutes and I don't know if I've made any kind of sense in this video, if I've put any kind of point across. But essentially, I don't care. I'm finding it really hard to care anymore about these shows that keep being reeled out. Like, stop it with the quantity over quality. We don't want a million Star Wars shows. We want Star Wars shows that are good, that are meaningful, that are well written, that are well shot by people who understand the fans and who listen to them. So that's it for this rant. Congratulations if you made it this far. Tell me what you thought in the comments, and if there's anything else you want me to talk about, like any of this stuff. I don't know. So thank you so much for watching. Please love, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.